Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
Thank you for starting with that question. And I think this is a debate we are having here. The public is not sure what this legal process is because we are also trying to understand whether this is an amendment or it's not an amendment. And I think you've seen the back and forth we are having right here. So if we are land friends on this panel and we are trying to understand and that same confusion, you may agree, but the public, you've had the questions, right? You've had the questions from the public. Let's not assume for the public. Citizens have a right to ask you because they don't understand. So
maybe they understand, but they have a right
yes, they also have a right to ask you questions.
to put us to test.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So
but their asking does not make the answer wrong. They can ask and ask and ask.
We've not yet reached the answer.
And the answer will remain right.
Yes. Enoch, we've not yet reached there. Let's go step by step.
You can see the quarrel at the bar.
Let's go step by step. We need to understand what exactly was passed. Understand to the layman. Leave us here where land. Explain to the ordinary Ugandan what exactly it is that Parliament passed yesterday. Explain it in very simple terms on how they can understand it.
Yvonne,
because I don't want to go through.
Time? What was passed is bad law.
It's bad, exactly. And this is what they are trying to tell you.
You the answer.
And it's what we're also trying to tell you, that what you've passed is a very horrible law. But you don't want to take it because, as usual, NRM likes confusing people. You've taken us around in circles. You were asked very clear questions. Enoch, you asked very clear questions on what exactly are the threats and why is the law so broad and vague? And you did not answer them. Why?
I have told you the law is not overbroad and vague. The bill, as originally presented, had parts which were overbroad and vague and subject to multiple interpretations.
Okay.
When it went through the committee made proposals to amend those provisions in line with the rules of procedure of Parliament. The law was subsequently passed. What are the threats? As I have told you, the threats are not predetermined. That is why you have a law. The threats are determined fact on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
And that is why the principal provision, the principal requirement under this law is transparency. Register and disclose. As simple as that. Now, when you divert yourself and you start arguing NRM, this, that, you are going to go into areas. If you're asking about the law, ask about the law. The law is saying if you fit this categorization, register and disclose, then we shall be sure that what you are doing is within the national interest. If you are talking about national interest, look at Article 8A of the Constitution. It tells you what that national interest is.
Okay.
So let us read. It does.
Please allow me to finish.
It does.
Kindly allow me to finish.
I've read it. I know the amendment introduced by Right Honourable Mama Babazi. It only said that for whatever we do, we shall do in national interest.
And it does not. It says what the national interest is. You read it.
Please go on.
Anyway, so the people are asking you, because they're also trying to understand where this point of sovereignty that has slowly shifted from the constitutional definition of sovereignty being in the people has shifted into sovereignty of the government. Because government, for some strange reason, is now trying to introduce policy in government, and they're trying to make it seem like this is where sovereignty is best rather than the people. And I think this is why there's so much confusion. So when people are calling for the withdrawal of the bill, who is the government and Parliament answering to, especially now that they've passed the bill? People showed up in large numbers and said, this is bad law, withdraw it and bin it. So whose interests is the Parliament working in if they are passing a law that citizens have insisted they don't need, they don't want, and that is not necessary? Whose interests are they serving? Have we changed the constitutional mandate of government serving the people to people serving the government, or government is serving itself? Because if people have called you to withdraw the bill and bin it, why has it been passed? This is why they are confused. They turned up in large numbers and gave you all the different reasons why this is bad law, and you still passed it. And you're continuing to tell them you are serving their interests by passing a law that is protecting their sovereignty. Which protection is there if they've told you it's not attacking their sovereignty? And recently, I think it was Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago, when he stated during, I think, one of the presentations during the committee sittings, and he said, there are so many domestic attacks on people's sovereignty that this bill does not cater to. Why hasn't it catered to them? Why are we only looking at foreign influence or interference that has not been defined in any criminal offense law and has been reintroduced by a random law and just placed there as an offense, and we've not defined it? Why are we bringing in something outside, yet we fail to cater to domestically what is hindering people's sovereignty? It's very important to answer those questions, and I'm glad they kept saying, you're introducing this law for the people. Which people have asked you for it? You tell us, are you serving yourselves or you're serving the people? The people turned up in large numbers and refused the law. So who are you serving? Are those their interests?
Yvonne, are there any threats that in this law insulate the people and the country against foreign influence?
When I was listening to my two colleagues from NRM speaking, a lot of it sounds like speculation, and it sounds like a paranoid government.
What is your assessment? What is your assessment? Never
My
mind.
assessment is you're speculating,
No,
because
never mind. No,
which foreign interference have we seen? We've not seen it.
Okay.
We've not seen it. Ask the people.
There are no threats.
It's them who are telling you they've done investigations, they have reports. Have you seen any of those reports?
So there are no
Are
threats
you
according
saying
to you.
they are legislating in anticipation?
They are speculating.
No, in haste and
They are
paranoia.
speculating and passing laws through
That's what she's
paranoia,
saying.
because they are trying to protect their interests, to maintain power. They've decided to speculate and pass laws based off speculation.
Yvonne, is there anything good about this law, in your perspective?
In my perspective, no. Withdraw it and bin it. It's a bad law.
And if it could be amended to anything to suit the people of Uganda, is there anything substantial?
Even talking
in it?
about amendments, you
She's
see, he
saying
referred to...
It is incurable.
It's incurable, but he was referring to the American FARA law, which we know very well, by the way. And trust me, this law you've introduced is very far from it, because the American foreign agent law
Registration.
is very constitutional. This one has abused over 5 clauses, over 5 articles in the Constitution. The American one you're referring to compare it to this one, you're lying. Because if you go side by side of that law and this sovereignty law you've passed, there are 2 different documents completely. This one, maybe you can refer it to Russia, where they are completely, I don't even want to attack Russia, because what Uganda has passed is something else, and even them, they are telling you. If you've been following social media trends, they are telling you Uganda passes exceptionally bad law that is chasing away who? Any foreigner. Those are the headlines on media. I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to lie to you. When you're speaking to your investors out there, they are not going to sit down and scrutinize your laws and sections. They don't. They see headlines. They see headlines from Bloomberg and they are done.
But
The
Timothy,
ones I have dealt
Timothy,
with actually read the laws.
I just wanted
Yes.
my sister. She's a land friend. And me, one of the things I like about these land friends, especially the likes of Honorable Segona, is that they usually take the bulls, either the horns.
Mostly. The other one is dangerous.
You can't even do it.
Because to me, I enjoy the jurisprudence which comes out whenever there is a litigation process that enables the land people. Recently, the Constitutional Court annulled a law that was passed by the Parliament of Uganda because, one, it did not follow the procedure, two, it breached the aspects of the Constitution. So, the law has been passed. We're waiting for the President to ascend. Once he has done that, let the lawyers put it to test. Because we have a Constitutional Court. Finally, the provision of the UPDF Act, when you look at the role of the UPDF, when you read the Constitution of Uganda, Article 209, it says to preserve and defend, to protect sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Uganda. This sovereignty, even when it belongs to the people are sovereign. But once the people have made decisions and have a government, the Constitution here gives the power to defend the sovereignty of Uganda. to the UPDF, which is part of the executive of government. So when government does this, people are not, this argument of saying it is now the government becoming sovereign, government is just fulfilling the constitutional mandate.
No, Honorable
Dombo.
Honorable Dombo, you started a little bit well when you said the duty. There is a duty. We conferred a duty, quality function, to protect our sovereignty. But the argument we are putting in this is that the government was taking away our sovereignty. When you opened the object and you would find that there are two sovereignties, so to say, provided for in the bill. I liked the idea that actually we moved away from that when government conceded. There was sovereignty of the people, then sovereignty of the government. There are two different things. What the UPDF is required to do under Article 209, because I have tested it, even against litigation in the Kabazuguka case. So I have a photographic memory of the provision. What they are supposed to do is to protect that sovereignty, but not to change the sovereignty and own it.
Exactly.
But for me, I will come to the bill for colleagues who have been saying, oh, it's a good law, and I can show you or demonstrate to you. I don't know if Yvonne is
let me come to you. Yvonne, if the president assents to it, it's gazetted, what implications do you foresee? Civil society, political activities, what do you foresee in there?
I think for the start, let's acknowledge the fact that we don't feel that much has been adopted from what the original bill was displaying. We don't feel much has been adopted to reflect a much better law. It's not a better law at all. I think they amended, okay, you said it's not an amendment, but you adopted a couple of additions that were, I think, proposed a couple of additions around the definition of a foreigner, and I think they changed a bit of the minister's power from defining that who exactly is a foreigner and remove that power from him. There were just a handful of them, but it's literally still the same law. And I think that's why it was very important for our colleagues from the government to properly explain what it is they've passed. What it is they've passed, so that people understand.
You're putting a very onerous job on them to explain it, because they actually don't know it.
They do not, I agree entirely. They do not know it. So originally, most of what citizens tabled is still a threat. And it's why we're even discussing here when they were saying there are exemptions in this law. When you go down to scrutinize, there's no exemption at all.
Yeah, I wish you could
There's no exemption. We are all still targets, because you do not, and we don't know how an entrenched government is going to wake up and get annoyed at Timothy today for speaking about a certain land policy, and before you know it, you are a target. You can't be sure. One, that's how vague it is. In its definitions, it is vague.
I wish you could point us there.
So we can't be sure it's targeting. We can't be sure exactly has been exempted, because even when I was scrutinizing it to look at, say, academia and researcher that had said had been exempted, they only discussed the ones that are registered. But do you realize there are so many foreign fellowships that are happening between Uganda and other countries also doing foreign fellowships here in this country that are not registered as an academic institution?
So they should register then.
So.
Okay. Let me come to Honorable Seguna. You raised something that was quite interesting during your presentation of the Minority Report, especially on the registration of an agent of a foreigner and the scope of what they are capable of doing. You almost said they are giving them legal mandate to continue indulging.
No, because in principle, at face value, the law is intended to diminish influence of foreigners. Let me first state, first of all, that is it that every foreign policy is bad? No. You see, the example given by Enoch Barata of the American law in 1938, it was specifically to deal with enemies of the state. And the concept of enemies of the state or enemies of the king is not new, because it is part of the law we received from England. There are people referred to as enemies of the king, enemies of the queen, enemies of the country. I think in 2021, during the campaigns, there was a feeling that probably Kyagulanyi was getting some money. Was it 2000? Yes, that he was getting some money from Rwanda or something. What the minister did was to go and amend the regulation, the schedule, and declare Rwanda a hostile state. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I don't know whether they have since removed Rwanda from the list of hostile states and therefore enemies of the state. So America was specifically dealing with its enemy, and they named their enemy. Now, in our case, we are assuming that every foreign policy or influence is bad until and unless it is approved by cabinet. So I did ask a question. Does registration make it is unlawful? Lawful? That you see it becomes lawful per se. It becomes our interest per se. Or that every issue, foreign issue that we conceive, we run to cabinet, to consult cabinet and ask, is this now okay? Or we go to the minister and say, is this now okay? I was going to demonstrate to you the contradictions, intra and inter-contradictions within this act, or the vagueness for which it will equal to void. The doctrine in law is void for vagueness. And that is a test, national test. A statute is judged and therefore may be declared null and void. Look at the definition of agent of a foreigner in the interpretation clause 1. An agent of a foreigner means a person who engages in any of the activities referred to in section 2. As an agent in section 2I, that is, as an agent, representative, employee of a foreigner. Now tell me what you find offensive in that, other than the description of agent of a foreigner being derogatory. How do you tell me that by working with a foreigner, doing business with a foreigner, or being a representative of a foreigner, therefore, I should be subjected to that derogatory description? On works on orders, requests, supervision, or under the
derogatory.
The description that I'm an agent of a foreigner, you know, and I'm going to juxtapose it against the substantive clause. Then you listen and decide. While being financed or subsidized by a foreigner. Now that is the definition of an agent of a foreigner. Let's go to the substantive clause and listen to this. Clause 25, reporting of foreign funding. Now, by substituting for subclause 1 the following: a supervised institution shall not pay out any money to an agent of a foreigner without the agent of a foreigner submitting proof of declaration, that is B, of the fund. Now, the supervised institution you're talking about, for example, is a bank. Okay? When does the bank get to know that I am an agent of a foreigner within the meaning of clause 1? What is it that I'm supposed to present there? Supposing for me, in my dealings, I insist I'm not an agent of a foreigner. Isn't that going to hamper with transactions? 2, they even go ahead to criminalize a supervised institution that contravenes this section 1, subsection 1, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 200,000 currency points. Now, you see how you're going to stampede these institutions. You see how you're going to hamper transactions. And you wait when the law comes up. I would now respond broadly to what Enoch Barata says in the clauses. I told you that actually the best would be to be bold, shameless, and say, we're not talking about foreigners. We are talking about enemies of Uganda. In which case, using what they are calling their intelligence, they would have a schedule. The minister would be given powers to amend the schedule, declare, because now that one is an executive function, to know who our enemies are If I'm dealing with a foreigner in the country X, and that country is an enemy of the state, declare that this one is an enemy of the state. I remember in 2015 or thereabout, when we launched FOC, Peter Nyombi, the late Attorney General, was very quick to go and amend some schedule to name FOC a terrorist organization. When we were doing peaceful demonstration, walk to work. Walk from your home to work. Don't beat anyone. Don't insult anyone. The government was very quick to declare FOC. We moved from FOC because it was a terrorist organization. Imagine we were declared a terrorist organization. Then the next thing, and we asked Peter Nyombi, so tell me, who are the members of this terrorist organization you have named? The same members metamorphosed into 4GC, For God and My Country. He was very quick to go again and amend the schedule. It is clear, with all its problems and constitution as it was easy for a citizen to know what is it that I'm prohibited from doing. Who is that I'm prohibited from transacting or associating with, because this one is a terrorist. When you require Ugandan to know foreign policy so as not to import it, you are not defining that foreign policy, because you can't define foreign policy of every nation X, Y, and Z. Then you go to the broad, imprecise, vague, and void statements that are put in here. Look at disruptive activities. Look at foreign policy. How do I know? Because even Ugandan policy is not codified anywhere. Then you go to where I act to influence, or I influence somebody to influence government policy. All you're doing is to arm the police and enforcement agencies to simply grab Timothy, just put a statement in the charge sheet and say that this one was involved in disruptive activities, because all the activities that have been listed and of course adopted in the majority report here are activities that already have precise definitions and prohibitions in existing statutes. If you're talking about the security of the country, there are offenses within the Penal Code. There are offenses within the Anti-Terrorism Act. There are offenses within the Anti-Money Laundering Act, and so on and so forth. That's why we were saying, before you even look at the text, the draftsmanship, etc. of this bill, go to existing law. Laws exist that you do not even require this one. Now, the activities that are proscribed, political. We even have the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission law, because they are talking about electoral offenses. The Electoral Commission Act, the Presidential Elections Act, the Parliamentary Elections Act. You're talking about unlawful assembly. That is already catered for in the Penal Code. Very elaborate. Now, when you charge me under this one the way it is imprecise, it is arbitrary, because even what amounts to an unlawful assembly is not mentioned here. Yet in the Penal Code, it is provided for the process of declaring an assembly unlawful is already provided for. So I think this thing of chest thumping to say, Muzei does not lose, Muzei Tebuhabua, he cannot be corrected, is what is killing this country. And the problem is not my brother, the president. The problem are these people. I will not point at Dombo, because he knows very little about what we are talking about. Talk about Enoch Barata. One, who had the benefit of sitting in law class with me. 2, who had the benefit of reading my notes. 3, who has had the benefit of interacting with me for the last 25 years. We have had pending coffee for a very long time. Probably, he would have asked me these questions. Okay? And we're not doing this because we hate the state, because we hate government, because we participate in crime or cross-border crime. We are saying this because we love Uganda more. That's why we want to stop these people from proceeding to break the constitution. How do you proscribe assembly? I mean, how do you proscribe contributing to the development of policy? Because the moment I say what you do not want to hear, the next thing is to declare me an agent of a foreigner. I'll give you 2 examples as I close on this. In 2008, I was a deputy minister for information in the Kingdom of Uganda. And there was a proposal to amend the Land Act. We opposed it. I spoke against it as a spokesperson of an institution. And we gave our proposals to government in writing to a committee of parliament. General Museveni was somewhere in Wakiso Gombe and said, those people who are opposed to the Land Amendment Act are going to realize that they are playing with fire. That very evening, they started looking for me. The following morning, they abducted me. For the next couple of days, weeks, I was missing. Simply because I made a comment on that was unpopular as far as the president was concerned. And I was locked up, including in the bush. I am on court bail for the last 17 years. The second is when the Honorable, I think when we all commented in disapproval of PDM, and we gave our reasons. And the president said we are enemies of the state for opposing PDM. But now, I pay taxes. I am telling you that through PDM, you are squandering my money. It is ill-conceived. It is simply political. You may be right. I may be wrong. I may be right. You may be wrong. How do you proscribe my contribution to policy development? All that a mischievous police officer will need to do is to add just one ingredient, that the points I am making are sponsored by a foreigner. Just look at my brother, my son now, Genome Hall's tweet against the Governor Bank of Uganda. That the Governor Bank of Uganda appeared before a committee of parliament. He made contributions that even the president has agreed with, because when he met a section of people in his caucus, he told them, no, this is wrong. So he agreed with the Governor Bank of Uganda. We benefited from the technical input of the person that manages our purse, the person that runs our economy, the person that was telling us the impact of the bill on the economy of the country. But now you see, somebody perceives him wrong. The next thing is the comment, you pay for this sin. Just imagine if we had this acrimonious law in place already. You would have the Governor Bank of Uganda locked up. Probably you will have the entire board and management of Bank of Uganda locked up. For doing what? Contributing. And you know this is not new. When General Tinyefunza Munungu Bwajojo David, in 1997, we were in our first year, appeared before a committee of parliament. He was being asked to comment on the war in northern Uganda because he had been a commander there. He made his comments, which he might have been wrong, factually. I want to believe he was right because he had been there. He made his comments. The next thing was a threat to court-martial him. That's how he ended up in the Constitutional Court. So this business of threatening to gag people that dissent is not new in our country. It has been here. So I am telling you that the law is a bad one, both in spirit and text. For the text, I have demonstrated and given you some causes. By the way, I had intended to benefit my brother, Enoch Barata. When you read clause 2 itself, that's why I talked of the inter and intra contradictions. In clause 2, they are saying that is for avoidance of doubt. This act applies to an agent of a foreigner who engages in any of the following activities through any means, including the use of digital platforms. 2, and I read a portion of them, the most ridiculous, engage in political activities to further the interests of a foreigner, solicit, collect, disburse, it is for purposes of influencing or sponsoring political activities to further the interest of a foreigner, to represent the interests of a foreigner, recruit, etc. They use the word for avoidance of doubt. But now listen to clause 2 to C, immediately following B. It reads, and I quote, for avoidance of doubt, and notwithstanding the provisions of this section, this act shall not apply to monies or funding received from a foreigner by a supervised institution. Notwithstanding this section, including 2.2,
Yes.
which is the application clause. And this is where I told you that people make mistakes, but we are advised when your enemy is making a mistake, you do not interfere. In fact, you proceed to facilitate the mistake and confusion. So already, 2.2c has subordinated to the preceding one, which is intended to apply and to bring all these ones. So the first defense is embedded within C. When I was exchanging my views with the...
That's the first defense is embedded in C.
Yes.
Absolutely correct.
So when I was exchanging...
I'm trying to follow where the problem is there.
No, where the problem is that it actually makes this law important.
But then you are saying it's a bad law.
Yes.
You are saying it is going to be used to curtail people.
You see,
they have made clear exceptions, and you are saying there were no exceptions.
No, I didn't say that. But by the way, I did not say that.
Yes.
I've been consistent.
Yes.
From the day I read the majority report, because it was uploaded on Monday at 4 p.m. And remember, I was required to write and submit my minority report at the earliest before plenary sitting on Tuesday. So I had to submit this. I submitted my report, my response by 11 o'clock yesterday. Ugandans don't know how much we sweat to generate what we present. And even as I leave Parliament, I urge Ugandans to respect their leaders or their MPs. Because some of them, yes, there are those that may cheat along the way by not doing their work. But now the point I am making and why I'm telling Barata it's bad law, you don't waste Ugandan taxpayers' money to generate a law which I've said is impotent.
Which one is that, 224? 224C?
224. 224C. Yes, because 224C is now a superior clause to 224B.
Which exempts certain people.
He knows the rules of statutory interpretation. That a latter clause supersedes the former. But even by way of interpretation, specific interpretation here, 2.2b is subordinate to 2.2c because it says notwithstanding B or the preceding or any this section. Now when you say these ones, and I want to respond to what he said, that you talk about supervised. Yes, I will read it for him. A supervised institution or a person or institution regulated by a regulatory body. Why is, they were talking about the political parties, where I told them, you've given the old man hot air. A regulatory body under an act of parliament. These political parties are regulated by the Electoral Commission under the Political Parties and Organizations Act.
Correct.
You have already exempted them. You have exempted health or medical facilities, academic or research institutions,
Yes.
a person for commercial, domestic, or family use,
Yes.
faith-based organizations. Who are you left with?
Everybody,
to-
everybody who is not there.
Who is not there?
Everybody who is
So
not
who is
in
not
that
there
category. Everybody who is not. You see, you can't argue it this way and then the other way. I think what we are saying has been very, very consistent. There was, in certain clauses, overbreadth, which now these exemptions are saying that these entities here are already subject to another regime. And that's what the argument has been actually all along, that there is all these other regimes, FIA, PPOA, and so on and so forth. So what the law is saying, yeah, what the committees of parliament eventually did and the full house of parliament, it said, yeah, that makes sense if for those ones that are already falling in another regulatory regime, in other words, they already have registration and disclosure requirements, then you will deal with under those
So tell me one.
regulations.
Tell me those that
For
are
those,
not.
for an individual,
that are
for
not those
instance,
ones.
an individual, myself, yes.
Okay.
So I am captured. If I am not doing anything for academic, medical, academic research, etc., I'm captured.
No, if you are not a political party.
I think you and the Attorney General communicate.
If you are not,
different
how about NGOs?
Or if I am not, eh?
How about NGOs?
There are those NGOs that may not be, they are, by the way, they are
Which are not
bodies, they are
regulated.
bodies that are not registered.
Like,
There are bodies, she just mentioned herself, there are bodies which are not registered. And that's the whole point. Bring yourself into one of those regimes. Bring yourself into any one of those regimes. Bring yourself under the FIA.
How am I not
bring,
registered again?
Not yourself, not
Oh,
yourself. You are getting it wrong.
Enoch, let me put a
yourself.
question to you.
Yes.
And there's been a back and forth here, but let me put a blunt question. Is there anything that can be improved in this bill, in your view? Because
Timothy,
and I want to say this.
Timothy, let me put it to you like this. I can
Allow me
answer your
finish.
question.
There has been improvement. And also I agree with the transparency.
Yes.
I also agree with the threats.
Yes.
Is there anything else we can improve to this bill to improve its spirit?
Timothy, a bill was presented to Parliament.
No, this is for debate purposes.
And this is exactly what I'm answering. A bill was presented to Parliament. It went through the first reading. It went through the committee. This very question was asked. Is there anything that can be improved? Yes. It was improved by the Committee of Parliament, by the Committee of the whole House. It was passed. So that was improved, that was passed. And you have seen, and you can go through. Unfortunately, when we are in between a debate of legal provisions in a strictly legal and technical sense, and then mixing it with generalizations, a lot gets lost in between. But maybe maybe somebody should actually write an excursus on this, and then we can debate that. But yes, those improvements were made, and the bill was passed into law, subject to completion of the rest of the processes that will require it to now be enforceable.
You're not responding to the question.
I have responded to the question.
You're responding to the question.
I have
in the
responded.
past.
I have. No,
Because
you are asking me the question in the past, and I am telling you the bill was passed into law with improvements, with adjustments.
So there is nothing to improve about this
But
bill.
there is nothing. What can you improve? The bill has been passed
So,
into law. You wait for it now.
The only thing
If
that
you,
can,
if once it is enacted and it is signed and it becomes law, you are saying can it be amended?
Timothy,
Maybe.
Yes.
whatever we are discussing now about this bill is basically speculation.
Yes.
We are dealing with speculation. Let's pray that the president assents to the bill and the bill is put to test. One, to test, we shall test whether what the fears of Honorable Segona and his friends will come to fruition, and that will happen. Then the second test would be the litigants who may choose to say this bill has offended the provisions of the Constitution and interferes with the liberties of the population. Let us take it to the courts of law. Those are the two things that can be done. When it is implemented, it is now easier to look at the implementation and see, we wish you had done better here. Then it can be a subject for improvement through an amendment.
Let me stay with you, Enoch, especially on this bill. When the president assents to it and becomes an act and it's gazetted, do you have concerns, especially in its implementation? The Ministry of Internal Affairs, the implementing bodies, their interpretation of what the law is, their interpretation of the letters here. Are there concerns that you see in implementation that could vulgarize this bill?
Okay. So again, Timothy, thank you very much for this question. And let me emphasize that what we have now is a Protection of Sovereignty Act that awaits the other processes, gazettement and forwarding to the president for assent. Are there concerns? No. I do not see any concerns whatsoever. Why? There are a multitude of laws. This is not the first law that is going to fall under the auspices of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. There are several laws that fall under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. There are several laws that fall under the Minister of Security. There are several laws that fall under the Minister of Defense and all other ministries in that line. So what you are saying is you are speculating, and this is where the argument gets derailed, is the speculation that there is a potential for abuse. The potential for abuse of anything at all exists every day in every aspect. That does not stop you from working. The potential that the human resource policy at UBC will be abused does not prevent you from coming to work every morning. So that is not a concern to me. If that ever happened, there are avenues to address it. And those avenues have been there all the time.
My last question.
There are sufficient structures, sufficient safeguards to address any potential abuses. So for me, there is no concern at all.
There is something that Honorable Segona raised about the process of appeal. Looks like the buck stops with the minister.
No, first of all, my learned friend will agree. Every decision of a public official, whatever they might be, is subject to judicial review. Automatically. It doesn't have to be provided in any law. It doesn't have to be written there. It is automatically subject to judicial review, and that's just one remedy. All the other remedies exist, and that is how the example Honorable Segona has just given, that is how laws get struck out. You see people appeal, go here, go there, and the law gets struck out, and these are not, those incidences have been several, and adjustments are made.
Thank you. Let me come.
But sorry, Timothy, yes. Isn't that one of the concerns people had raised, that this particular bill has no sunset clause? They had raised that issue. They said Parliament does not have a review mechanism for us to come back to and say that it can review what this law has been, because the bill does, okay, now it's a law. The law does not explicitly point it out. It has not been assented to, exactly. So I'm hearing Enoch and I'm wondering,
but does Parliament review, does Parliament usually reserve itself powers to review acts?
But almost every law, no, this is the thing, and you've been talking about it.
No. Now, in some countries, they
I think we are talking about different things.
Some countries have got post-legislative scrutiny mechanisms.
Some countries, but we are talking about Uganda, my friend.
Post-legislative scrutiny mechanisms are available naturally, and they have committees that do it. I think Honorable Dombo remembers in the 9th Parliament we wanted to to introduce a committee,
But it didn't.
but it didn't work through. Yeah, but I think, Timothy, the issue that Enoch raises is very fundamental. You see, in law, the grounds for judicial review are different from appeal. The grounds for judicial review are technical. They relate to, one, that the minister acted without jurisdiction. Two, that the minister exercised the jurisdiction wrongly. I mean, their grounds, they are listed. What we are talking about here is that there is no appellate process. Because he may simply say, and within the law, because the law gave him the mandate. But the law did not provide where he is wrong in law, in his interpretation of the law. Because that one is not a ground for judicial review. That one would be a ground for appeal. Now, appeal by its nature, and Enoch knows, and this is where I disagree with him. He said, I will agree. No, I will not agree. Appeal.
No, you will agree that judicial review is available.
Is a appeal, but the grounds may not be available.
But judicial review is available.
Yes, appeal is a creature of statute. If the enabling statute is not enabling you to appeal, you cannot appeal. Where the minister exercises his powers under this clause 18, and he refuses either on recommendation of the department, or in his opinion, you do not merit, you will not appeal. And that one is a ground that offends the Constitution by denying access to judicial remedies. When you asked Enoch areas of improvement, and probably this is where we may also all have erred, I think I must say. Why? Because we had said it's a bad law. Probably would have provided a mechanism for appeal in this.
A person aggrieved by the decision of the minister may apply to court of competent jurisdiction for legal redress in accordance with the applicable law.
No. That's not
That
appeal.
is 18.
Yes, that's not appeal.
Okay.
We are talking about legal redress.
Gentlemen, allow me end with the Honorable Dombo
you know
there.
when you start splitting hairs, then you have a problem.
No, that's
You are
not-
saying there is no remedy
No,
to
I didn't
challenge,
say that.
challenge.
No. I said there is no right of appeal.
But here, there's a right given to
Now you have limited the remedies.
Okay. Honorable Dombo, especially the relationship between the legislature and the executive, the letter that came from the president, him summoning the chairman there, him...
Summoning the chairman.
At what point do we have a relationship that is just a handshake and we're not going to the elbow? Because the relationship seems becoming quicksand to the leaning of the executive.
We have always talked about separation of powers of these various arms of government, but to what extent do you hold that possible? Because you have a legislation that has been, when you look at the rules of procedure of Parliament, there is a reason why the bills from government are given express provision for them to be expedited over the private members' bids. One, because the affairs of running the government, I mean the country, are in the hands of the executive, which is privy to some of the information that we may not be having. For instance, when they brought up this bill, like I said, there is some information which government will know through cabinet or through the various forms of intelligentsia, which is not going to be prescribed or submitted in here. So in our relationship, you can have Parliament having, through the caucuses of Parliament, because you have a president who is the chairman of the party and also a member of the caucus that is in government. In such a situation, you will not see the separation as usually people tend to suggest that there is going to be a separation of powers and then the president will not know. In situations of governance where he too has received the mandate from the population through a general vote. So there will be interaction, there will be constructive engagement, and at times it may be misconstrued. But this engagement is not intended to subvert the constitution, but it's supposed to improve the governance like it has always done.
Thank you. Let me read some feedback before I give you parting shots. This comes in from Prosi Ingulu, says, this is basically the control of civic space, of individuals and political space, okay?
That's what governments do.
There's a regulation.
Ruth in
Control,
Wakiso
not
sends a message and
regulation.
says, good evening, Timothy. Thank you for that eminent panel, and thank you for avoiding the noise and the chaff to get to the substance. But the substance seems like it's targeting a few people. This bill has been weaponized against politics, okay? This is Flavia. She says, good evening, Timothy, for the show. I appreciate all the submissions there, especially the ones from Honorable Segona. It is a balanced conversation, but I still feel this thing is skewed towards the benefit of government. Okay, let's leave it at that. I'll give Yvonne, Honorable Segona, Enoch, and finally Honorable Dombo, your 2 minutes of your parting shot.
2 minutes. Well, I'm going to be honest. The first time I read the bill in its original form, I genuinely believed the drafters wanted to overthrow the president and the government. That is the first thing that came into my mind. I said, are these people against the president? Are they trying to overthrow him? What exactly are they passing? Because when you start to criminalize international support, when you start to criminalize investment, when you start to criminalize international solidarity, what exactly are you doing? Us saying that when we criminalize foreigners as if the majority of what they've been doing for this country is bad, I don't know what image we're trying to portray. Majority of Ugandans depend so much on foreign aid, government programs as well. So when I was reading certain proposals from, say, the Attorney General, from Enoch, my brother here, he also put out a very long article, I think some time back in the newspapers. And I just looked at it and said, this is so disingenuous, because how are you not seeing the consequences of what a bad law like this can do for this country? We're already grappling with poverty, honestly. Most of Ugandans are employed under the civil society spaces. You have like a 20–30% of Ugandans who are employed under it, and you're deciding that these are people whose livelihoods you're going to cut short simply because a government is paranoid. So we need to be genuine about the consequences of this law. We need to explain to the people that this government has come to serve itself, and that the sovereignty they are talking about is not structured under Article 1 of the Constitution. Because if that were so, whatever they are defining as a national interest, whatever they are defining as foreign interference, it would have a very clear picture. And I think what we've discussed here is there's no one who is sure what exactly this law is trying to address. We need to be honest about that. So we need to retract it, and I'm very sure if the president is not being self-centered, he's not going to assent to this law. And I think that's a question that Enoch should have answered when you asked him that, are you sure there's nothing to improve about this law? Because then what happens when the president refuses to send, saying there are so many things to amend from it? What happens? He would have stood here on this platform and been a very dishonest person.
Are you sure?
Because he should know. He should know.
Thank you.
So let's be honest with people.
Honorable Segona, your parting shot.
Yes, sir. Well, to my brother Joel, just refuse to assent to this bill.
Joel Senyonyi.
No, Joel Museveni. Refuse to assent to this bill. That's number one. Number two, while I refuse to name call colleagues because of decency, I want to call on all Ugandans to know that this is our country, and that we can do better than this, and that we have sufficient laws in place to ensure accountability, transparency, public interest, and let us listen to the views of everybody. Yesterday I told Parliament that Uganda is not firefighting. The country is here, and we are here to stay until we go naturally, and we shall leave people in our shoes. That even as we are living, we in Parliament now, there will be another Parliament of able, competent men and women to make the laws, even when we do not rush. Of those who say they are not able to understand what we are talking about here because this is a report where we are saying insert this before this and so on, that they will not understand, the technical team at Parliament will organize this into a properly prepared text. That will be the act of Parliament to which the President may assent, and I have advised him not to. And if he assents to it, it will be clear. With life granted by God the most gracious, we shall come back and show you where the problems are. I hope Enoch Barata will still be around and available, and that he will not be arrested and detained under this law as a foreign agent. We will be able to remind him that, look, this and this and that went wrong. Finally, I want to wish everyone a good life. I'm sure this is the last show I'm attending as the MP from Siro County East on this television. I leave with a heart full of gratitude to Ugandans that have supported me along the way, colleagues that I have worked with at Parliament for 15 years, the Speaker of Parliament or the different speakers, those that are alive. We lost one, the Honorable, Right Honorable Jacob Olanya. I've worked with 3 speakers and 3 deputies, colleagues at Parliament in the various committees where I've been. I want to thank you. The people of Siro County East, I want to thank you heartily and immensely for supporting me for 15 years in Parliament.
Thank you.
I live with a heart that is clear to everyone. Thank you also for retiring me at this age when I'm still able to fight for myself. I shall continue in the political space and support everybody that needs my support. To Enoch Barata, the tea that we have promised each other for so long, and of course for you to benefit from my wisdom that I've collected over the last 15 years. Who knows, I might even persuade you to leave that side where you are and we do things better. Timothy, thank you, and everyone, and our viewers out there.
Thank you very much. Enoch.
Thank you, Timothy. Let me begin by comforting my brother Segona to see from Honorable Dombo that at least UBC will not throw you out like the people of Usiro did.
You have become the spokesperson for UBC now.
At least judging from Honorable Dombo. About this very important conversation, again, I am glad that we have been able to have this discussion in public, very involved, very revitalized. It speaks to the democratic credentials of Uganda that have been built over the last 4 decades. The law is here. The law has told you that if you are dissatisfied with the minister's decision, where the minister has been left with those powers, you can apply to a competent court of jurisdiction, and that's very important because it has also left the jurisdiction very wide in terms of which court you prefer to go to. So the law is here, the country is ours, the sovereignty indeed is ours as Ugandans. What the law is doing is saying, let us protect it because we are vulnerable, because of the state in which we are as a country, economically, socially. Even when you look at the period of independence that we have lived as a country, we are vulnerable. And so we are saying, let us put into place certain measures to protect ourselves. And as the President put it, even when we make mistakes, allow us to make mistakes internally and do not impose your own mistakes on us. So let us be positive looking. I think we have in the last 4 decades shown that all these fears are unfounded. I have no doubt that going forward, the Uganda will be stronger and stronger under the movement government.
Thank you. Lastly, Honorable Dombo.
Timothy, this is most likely the last show that we are appearing with Honorable Segona as a member of parliament, like he said. I want to give him assurance that this side, outside parliament, there is life also. And he could learn from us who came earlier, about 10 years ago. But like I did mention in the program, that Seguna is a brilliant person whose ideas have improved the course of debate and the ideas that are exchanged. Let this discourse continue outside parliament. There is a tendency in the politics of Uganda, especially by the new young people coming up, of resenting one another, besmirching whatever contribution other people make, and using the media in a derogatory manner in order to offend others. Yet, each of us, none of us is very perfect. We progressively just improve what happens every day. The final one, that let us continue talking even when you're outside parliament, so that we can improve the governance of this country. On Tuesday next week, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni will be sworn in. And we have placed announcements in the media. We have invited the party leaders. And I was extending an invitation to Honorable Segona. I'll be sending you a card.
Are you the inviter?
Yes, in the part I am. I'll be inviting you so that you come and join us. We celebrate together because this country belongs to all of us. You know that outside parliament, even when you are still in parliament, we have talked about many things that unite us as a people. Let's continue talking about those things for the best of this country.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you who has been watching the show up to this hour. And I also want to thank the production team for making today possible, for everyone that has sent through a message. Too many messages, we couldn't read all of them. We also want to send apologies. Honorable Tony Oduru could not show up today because of one reason or another, but the gentleman... Jonathan Oduru, sorry, could not show up today. Gentlemen and lady, thank you so much for coming. Are you extending an invite to Yvonne too?
I was wondering.
Maybe I
thought you already had one.
I also think it would have been an overkill of lawyers if Oduru had come here.
Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. Yvonne, thank you so much for coming. We